Hello, everyone. Welcome in episode 4 of the Burnt Rubber Racing podcast. We are live on YouTube and Twitter recording this here tonight. I am joined, as I am each and every week on this fine program, show, whatever you want to call it, I guess, at this point. We aren't canceled after my little run-in with the wall last week, I guess, speaking in racing terms. But I'm joined by Zach McAdoo. Zach, how are we doing? I know it's conference champ week in college basketball, so we're all about that here too. But happy to be along and talk some racing here with you on this Thursday night.
Yeah, it's always fun to talk racing, but hey, I can miss a couple games to do this.
Yeah, just a couple.
Yeah.
We'll get back to basketball here as soon as we're done. And for those watching live on YouTube, just as a reminder, you can watch us live on the Flurry Sports YouTube and on Periscope through Twitter. Drop your questions, your comments in the chat. Let us know who you think is going to win at Phoenix this weekend. We'll any correct picks, we'll shout them out next week. How's that? Brought to you tonight by flurrysports.org. Of course, Zach and I are putting out all kinds of NASCAR content over on the site all season long, so be sure to head over and check that out as well. Burnt Rubber Racing, the podcast, available to subscribe and follow on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so make sure you do that. Don't miss an episode. And we're on Twitter. The show is on Twitter at Burnt Rub Racing, so follow us on there. Zach, we got a loaded show tonight. I feel like we're always loaded to the brim here each and every week, but we're going to recap Las Vegas. It was an exciting Pennzoil 400. Honestly, it felt like the early portions of that race were a little more intense than the end because the eventual winners we'll get into kind of pulled away there and dominated down the stretch of the race. But we'll talk some Xfinity and Truck Series. Both were in action last weekend. We'll get to the news and notes. Cole Custer's going to be without his crew chief this week, so we'll talk about that and some other stuff. And then we'll dive into picks and preview analysis for Phoenix this weekend. Both the Xfinity and the Cup are once again in action on the mile track down in the desert. Before we get any further, I don't know, for those watching live, and of course we're recording the audio here too, but you can go back and watch the video stream if you so desire as well. You'll notice Zach and I have our hats on backwards. And Zach, I'm going to let you kind of take the lead here on the tribute we're doing here tonight following this past weekend's race at Las Vegas.
All right, so I don't know. I think Jeff Gluck was the one who tweeted this out like 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was after Jimmy Johnson's Atlanta win, I want to say. If not, it was after Casey Kane's Indy win. So we all know Ricky Hendrick, right? And he raced in the Xfinity series for his dad, and he unfortunately passed away in the Hendrick plane crash. And ever since that race, Hendrick always does a little tribute like this, wearing their hats backwards for him in Victory Lane. So I figured why not do this week for a Kyle Larson win where he was in Ricky's colors, racing a scheme that Ricky Hendrick used like 18 years ago now, 17.
It's been a while, but yeah, and I was all on board. Zach, he reached out to me and he was like, "Hey, we should do this after Larson won," and here he won in like you said, the paint scheme of the 5 car that Hendrick made famous, the powder blue and the red and white trim. So it seemed right, and we're happy to kind of do that here on the show tonight too. So I guess we kind of spoiled the race winner of the Pennzoil 400 for you with that, but Kyle Larson did get the win in the Cup Series race this past weekend at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We'll kind of walk through the race here, I guess. Zach, it was hard racing early on, man. Like at one point, I want to say on the Fox broadcast, they were talking about the different lead changes, and it was maybe a stage and change through the race. and they were just under the total amount of lead changes that they had at the South Point 400, which is, of course, the fall race at Vegas last year in the playoffs. And that race was won by Kurt Busch. The late caution and his pit strategy kind of gambled and helped him get that win. But these guys were battling up front, 3 wide racing, stage 1, throwing caution to the wind here. It was exciting as a fan just to sit back and watch, and I'm sure you kind of had similar thoughts. Am I right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you go back and look, and I don't remember ever hearing an announcer talk about lead changes from this race compared to last race. Like that just seems weird to me that they would do on a broadcast. But yeah, like you said, they were 3 wide for 3 laps, and it's like I think it was Kurt Busch, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski all fighting for the lead, and I mean that was just great racing, and kudos to them for holding their line, not causing a wreck.
Yeah, 100%. It was clean racing too, for that matter, as everyone was kind of going for broke early on in the race. Brad Keselowski, Chase Elliott, they were battling out front early on, and of course, those of you who read my betting picks article going into last weekend's race, I had Brad Keselowski winning this dang thing, 1 position short, and I had Kyle Larson winning at Homestead, and here he is. He goes out and wins at Las Vegas. So, what can I do? What can I say? We'll get a winner here one of these weeks, and we'll cash out and make up for it. But, Zach, were you necessarily surprised by anyone who was strong early in this race or simply in the race at all? Was Larson a surprise to you? Was Chase Elliott a surprise? I honestly was impressed with Chase Elliott, and of course he had the 360 on the backstretch, I believe it was, down in stage 3, and so he lost a bit of finishing position to that, but he exceeded my expectations at Vegas this week, and I would say Larson, in getting the win and doing it in the dominant fashion he did, he exceeded my expectations as well. Do you echo those thoughts? Was there anyone that stood out to you as a bit of a surprise they did so well, or a surprise? Well, I know there's a surprise he didn't do so well, but we'll get into him here next.
Yeah, I mean, Larson was a surprise to me, but looking back, he shouldn't have been, because I mean, he 9 top 2s, and none of those were wins. Not 9 second place finishes for this guy. It was only a matter of time for him to get a win. In my mind, I think I was waiting for a caution to be thrown just to screw him out of another one, but that wasn't the case this time, and he actually earned this. So congrats to Kyle Larson on his first 1.5-mile win, and for his first win at Hendrick Motorsports.
Was the entire final stage run under green?
No, because Elliott spun.
Elliott, but that was early on, so it was the vast majority of the final stage was under green. I think there were a couple cautions actually early on. Yeah, because
Amarola had his problem too.
Right, yeah. So, but after that, man, Larson, they nailed the pit stop. They actually gained time as the green flag pit stop cycled through, and he dominated down the stretch of this race. Hendrick Motorsports, so that's back-to-back wins for them. Of course, you had William Byron winning at Homestead, Miami. I got to say, they've easily – I mean, I know it's easy for me to sit here and say, you have 2 of the 4 race winners on the season, and you've looked like the best team. Top to bottom, Hendrick Motorsports has looked like the best team. Chase Elliott, I just said, he exceeded my expectations here at Vegas. Spun around, it cost him some position. Alex Bowman was running in the top 10 for a lot of the day. He was right up at the front, actually.
Until he had a tire problem late.
Yeah, he had the tire problem late. But, you got 2 winners here in the last 2 weeks. Hendrick look like the top garage to you at this point as well?
I mean, you got 2 wins compared to one for the other 2 teams that actually have wins. So, yeah, I mean, right now, I think Hendrick is the class of the field. I shouldn't say the problem, because that's completely the wrong lingo. But I mean, you're going to a track that Chase Elliott won at last time they're at Phoenix, so they could very well have 3 wins coming out of this week. So something to look for is Hendrick catching Richard Richard Petty Enterprises for most wins by a team by the end of the year, and they could do it by maybe halfway with the way that they're racing so far.
Larson's win was number what for Hendrick? I don't have that in front of me.
265, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a lot of wins.
Yeah.
And to think this is a team that almost had to shut it down. They were talking about that on the broadcast here this past weekend too. And then
I mean, what was it? I think it was like 1985 Jeff Bodine and that whole thing. I mean, if he doesn't win that race, then how does NASCAR history change?
It looks a lot different than it does as it has played out in actuality. That is for sure. I just wanted to go through a couple more finishing positions here from the Pennzoil 400. So Joe Gibbs, they had a strong day overall. All 4 drivers finishing in the top 10. You got Kyle Busch 3rd, Hamlin 4th, Truex 6th, Christopher Bell 7th. Byron joined Kyle Larson in the top 10 for Hendrick. A pair of top 10 finishes for Penske. Keselowski runner-up. He was easily the second best car. Like, really, he was the only one who had anything for Larson, and it amounted to a whole lot of nothing down the stretch as the 5 pulled away. But and then Joey Logano in 9th. Eric Jones, bit of a rebound performance after a rough first 3 weeks for him in the switch to Richard Petty Motorsports. He got the 43, a top 10 finish coming in 10th. Anything you wanted to hit on with those guys at all, Zach? Joe Gibbs definitely, of course, stands out with the 4 guys all finishing in the top 10. And if you want to expand beyond the top 10, by all means.
Okay, we'll start with the good for now. And Eric Jones, this is a guy that I was like, there's no way he's going to top 10 this week. He's been dog watered the whole time this season. He's been completely awful, and it goes out and does that. And for last week, I mean, I didn't see it coming. I don't think a lot of people probably didn't see it coming, and hopefully this starts a good run for Eric Jones and Petty Motorsports, what are you going to call them, going forward, because they need it.
Do you think it does? I guess that would be my question, because Eric Jones is weird to me. I don't quite understand. The talent is there for him to be, I think, a really good driver at the Cup level, and it just never panned out in the equipment at Joe Gibbs. Obviously, you don't have quite the same equipment and financial backing, if you will, at Richard Petty Motorsports, the 1-car team. Is this an anomaly? Were the first 3 weeks an anomaly, or is he going to kind of land somewhere in between here this year? Where would you size him up? Of course, Bubba Wallace leaving Richard Petty Motorsports, informing 2311 Racing, co-owners Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin. Kind of a rough start for them this year in their first season. Do you think Eric Jones brings more to the 43 team than what Wallace was providing while he was there? Is this a step back, or where do you kind of come down on RPM here? So
I want to say that Eric Jones is going to be more like Eric Almirola, where he's going to overperform the equipment that he's given. When Almirola, I'm talking about Almirola being in the 43, not Almirola in the 10, because that Almirola is probably, well, we'll talk about that later. But as far as Almirola, you can't tell me that him getting top 20s every week wasn't an anomaly. Well, I shouldn't say anomaly, but he wasn't the norm for Almirola, because he did fantastic in that car. And then he put Bubba Wallace in the car, and he had two top twos, one in the 500, and the other one was at the Brickyard 400. So that was actually kind of a change. But other than that, it was hit or miss with him. So I honestly think Eric Jones will be like AA.
So you're going to go on the high side there, and I think I tend to agree with you, because I like the talent he has, and like I say, I don't quite understand why it didn't quite click with Joe Gibbs. So hopefully it'll turn things around, and hopefully this top 10 here at Vegas is a sign of good things to come for Eric Jones and Richard Petty Motorsports. Zach and I have been alluding to this other team this other driver, Eric Almirola, was kind of the teaser, I guess. What the heck is up with Stewart-Haas Racing, man? It has not been pretty here these first 4 weeks of the season. And I'm talking across the board. Kevin Harvick started on the pole in the Pennzoil 400 this past week, and he didn't even lead a lap. He was gone. It seemed like he was out of the top 10 before I had even sat down and really engaged with the race. The 4-car was nowhere to be found. Eric Almirola was starting toward the back. They never got it going. They wound up wrecking. They were out of the race before it was done. Talk to me about Stewart-Haas. Cole Custer, he's among our kind of news and notes for this week. As a headline, they had a lug nut violation, and his crew chief's going to be suspended for this week's race. So troubles with the 41 after he ran okay at Miami. He was in the top 10 late, and kind of, I think, a bit of a surprise for us there. But overall, Stewart-Haas Racing having major issues this year. And when a driver like Kevin Harvick is having those same issues too, that makes me really wonder, is something up with the team? Are they going to rebound? I don't know. What are your thoughts here on that? Because there's a lot to unpack for sure.
So when you talk about Kevin Harvick, I think it's not fair to him. This is one bad week, and well, there's been 4 races so far because he's finished top 10 in each one. I mean, then you have Almirola, who has wrecked the last 2 weeks. I don't remember how he wrecked out lap 14 in the 500. I don't remember how he did in the road course, but then you go Briscoe hasn't been anything close to what they wanted him to do when he was brought up. I think he's been a surprise, the biggest disappointment this year so far when you're talking about drivers. And then you have Custer, which if you go back to last year, he was very hit or miss. He got the one win in, 2-lap shootout where he got lucky with a push, and the fact that Truex pretty much cut off Harvick for the win.
Granted, I don't know how he pulled that off. He surged. Like, he came out of nowhere to win that race at Kentucky is what Zach's talking about. Kentucky's not on the schedule, though, this year, so.
Yeah, but like I was saying, like that was probably his only good moment. That is the only reason why he was Rookie of the Year last year.
100%.
I will go. Yeah, his win is the only reason why, and that's why it irritated me last year. Why the Rookie of the Year was determined by one driver making the playoffs. That's not how it should be. They should go back to how they did it back in 2014, where it was points. Like, if you were the highest placed rookie, you got 10 points. If you were the second, you got 9, and so on till you got to the bottom. The way that they do it now, I understand that's how it's always been. It was how it was always done with points, but you're screwing one. You get lucky in one race and you win the Rookie of the Year. That's just. Granted, that could be for the rest of everyone too, because you could just waltz your way into Phoenix somehow and still win. But even then, you have to be consistent.
Very true. I echo a lot of your thoughts. Definitely on Custer last year. Chase Briscoe, major disappointment this year in his first year at the Cup level. Of course, Clint Boyer retiring, Briscoe taking over the 14 car. Been rough sledding for them getting going here this year. And I think it's overshadowed too, or I shouldn't say overshadowed. His struggles are further emphasized when you have young guys like Christopher Bell going and winning a race. You got Tyler Reddick getting second place finish last week at Miami. You've got other young drivers who were, they're coming up with Chase Briscoe just a couple of years ahead of him getting to the Cup level, and they're finding success. Briscoe's with a solid team overall. They've got good equipment, obviously, at Stewart-Haas, and they're struggling. So I'm not quite sure what the root cause of it would be. Do you have any guesses? Is it just kind of all bad luck that all 4 guys are running this poorly? I mean, I know you're defending Harvick. You were quick to defend Harvick, and that's fair. I mean, he did exceed expectations for both of us for sure at the road course. But Almirola, he got caught up in the wreck at the 500, crashes out of Vegas. So was last year an anomaly for the 10? I don't know. Never made it to victory lane, but over the course of the summer, he was the hottest driver in the Cup.
Yeah, and I think it both. I think it surprises both that he didn't win last year with how well he was running. So, I mean, I don't know if we'll see that at this point. I still want to hold out hope, but he's got to put a run together before we can say he's going to do this or that. But for right now, I don't think that the 10 is going to make the playoffs.
Wouldn't surprise me, especially when you have a lot of other drivers getting wins this year. This could be, the first year where perhaps there are 16 different winners or more, and a winner's not going to get in based on points. So if you're having poor finishes like the 10 is, even if he does pick up a win, who's to say, that they're even able to qualify at that? There's one other guy I wanted to get your thoughts on quick, and that is the 21 of Mata Benedetto. Definitely ran better this past week at Vegas, a track where he had a runner-up finish in both the spring and fall races a year ago. The 21 Wood Brothers Ford wound up finishing 16th. Had some issues down the stretch of this race that backed him up. He was in the top 10 for a good portion of it in the middle. Is this a building block for them? Because this is another guy who has struggled big time here early on in the season. Where do you come down on the 21? I guess what would be their ceiling this year for you?
The ceiling is Benedetto getting to victory lane.
Okay.
You can't tell me that this guy, he hasn't. Well, I shouldn't say earned, but he hasn't had that work. Well, he has had the work. I don't know what the right word is, but he absolutely will be there before the end, before his contract's up at the 21, because he worked it at Bristol 2 years ago. He worked it last year at Talladega. It probably should have had to win at Talladega, but circumstances NASCAR decided, no, you're going to get penalized instead. But yeah, they have to get more momentum first though. They had the momentum at Vegas. They lost it with the late pit stop with I think that he said there was something wrong with the gun. It's just freak accidents like this, and it's just costing them.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine overall as well. It's hard to say they're really struggling as a race team so much as, like you said, kind of fluky things that keep coming up to bite him. He should have had a better finish this past weekend. I think obviously finishing 16th is better than in the 30s where he had been. And so it's got to be a boost going forward. It's a step in the right direction. Probably not as big a one as they had hoped, but I think the 21's on the right track. And who knows, maybe they will get to victory lane this year. Just to conclude, I think Las Vegas talk, Zach, unless you had anything else, I wanted to play a little bit of Kyle Larson's post-race interview just to kind of bring it full circle here with Ricky Hendrick. So this is the on-track interview that Fox Sports did with Kyle Larson after he climbed from the car following his Pennzoil 400 win.
You mentioned Mr. Hendrick and everything that he's done for you in your career. You're running the number 5 that Ricky Hendrick made so famous when he was driving. What does that mean to you?
It means a lot. I know that this is Rick's, most special paint scheme for obvious reasons, and it's just an honor for me to be able to drive it. Our first time out with this color scheme, and just like I said, it's blessed. And thanks to all the fans for coming out. Everybody at home watched on TV. That was some fun racing on the restart, so I hope everybody enjoyed it. I know I did, and had fun racing Brad and Denny and everybody, and tried giving it away there coming to the green flag stop. But thankfully, we were able to have a good enough car to hold them all off.
So again, that's Kyle Larson after his Pennzoil 400 win, the on-track interview. Kyle Larson's had a comeback story here of his own, Zach, and I don't think we can just kind of gloss over that. This is a guy who some media outlets are kind of still trying to drag and make it about an incident that happened a year ago. I think for me, at the end of the day, we have to realize that each of us as a human being is we're not the equivalent of either our greatest success or our greatest failure. Larson made a mistake. There's no denying it. But to come back, serve the suspension, which, you could argue, was that a bit harsh for a mistake like that? I don't know. Everyone's going to have their different opinion. But total class act after this victory, completely humble. And as we talked about with Rick Hendrick and our backwards hats here that we're wearing tonight, it's bigger than him to win a race in the 5 car with that color scheme, their first race with that color scheme since bringing back the 5. And he recognized that. And I commend Kyle Larson for the job that he and the team have done to get to victory lane, and also his poise and humility that he displayed in the interview after the race. So I'll let you, if you want to add any thoughts or disagree with me, you're more than welcome to, but that's just kind of where I came down. So
no, you're right. I mean, there's a lot more I could say, but I'll keep it short for reasons. But he made a mistake. Granted, people are going to say it was a really bad mistake, but you can't tell me that NFL players, MLB players, NBA players, NHL, any other sport, they haven't done worse and gotten a second chance. Larson owned up to it. He said he was sorry, and he deserved, and this is his second chance. If he does it again, he's out. Why is that a bad thing? I mean, there's an NFL player I could name who's on his third chance, really, but I'll let that slide for now unless someone wants to come at me. Then we'll play tit for tat there.
Completely agree. We have to maintain a level of forgiveness and just of love for one another, I think, in society right now. That's something that a lot of people aren't exactly jumping at the bit to do. But kudos to Larson, kudos to Hendrick Motorsports for giving him the chance. And it's good to see him back in victory lane. I think we both agree there. Moving on, which sums up the Cup Series recap. Xfinity and trucks were both in action. Kind of breeze through these recaps here, if you will, Zach. Trucks on Friday, John Hunter Nemechek getting the win for Kyle Busch Motorsports, not Kyle Busch, Las Vegas' own Kyle Busch, who was in the race. He had a tire go down with roughly, I think it was 25 to go, spun around. There was some back and forth as to whether he intentionally brought out the caution to stay on the lead lap. One could maybe argue yes. If so, do you really blame him? Busch rallied to finish second, but he couldn't get by his, shall we say, employee in Nemechek to win the race. Really, these two guys dominated the whole thing throughout. Any thoughts of yours on the truck race? Any other guys you want to talk about running good, bad, or indifferent here from Friday night?
Well, it's not really any one person. I want to talk about the Camping World trucks, and it seemed like Marcus Lemonis said, here, you guys either get to the front or you just wreck the hell out of them and get me exposure, because at least half the trucks just wrecked because it just seems funny to me that many trucks wrecked that had Camping World on them. So
yeah, you're not wrong, and you also weren't wrong last week when you said it was going to be a hell of a experience for the spotters, just having all those blue Camping World trucks out there. That was 100% accurate in watching that race. If not for the numbers, I would have been totally lost on which Camping World truck was who was running in the top, who was way in the back, who had wrecked out. Luckily, the trucks are also numbered. Again, salute to Lemonis, though. That was an incredible gesture on his part to get those teams a little bit of extra revenue and get them a sponsor for that race. Xfinity on Saturday. The Dinger. Lost Dinger, as Colleague Racing has, I guess, branded him now on Instagram. AJ Allmendinger back in victory lane. he's back running full time for Colleague Racing this year at the Xfinity level after doing a part-time schedule last year. And he's going to the playoffs with this win. So anything you wanted to touch on with the win or the Xfinity race from Saturday? That was a good race too. I do have a talking point, but I'll let you hit on anything you saw first.
I mean, the only thing I want to touch on is Allmendinger got so excited after this race. How can you not love him? Like, after he crossed the finish line, he just started screaming, "Let's go!" Like, and this is coming from a guy I used to hate, AJ Allmendinger. I don't know what it was. It was just
a lot of people did.
But actually, this reminded me of a point I missed earlier. But actually, it probably fits better with this. I like how in the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series, there was a guy who screwed up, owned their mistake, and came back and won a race. I mean, Allmendinger, this is going back 8-9 years now with when he failed a drug test with Adderall, and now you have Larson winning the Cup with his misspoke. I shouldn't say misspoke, but bad word choice. It goes to show you that people deserve second chances, and you can't really deny that.
Not at all. I am all for a second chance, especially when you own up to the mistake and you work to improve yourself after the fact. Like, you're going to go through hills and valleys in life. That could be I guess we're turning into a what do we want to call it? An inspirational life motivation podcast here, along with some racing. But
burnt rubber motivation podcast.
Hey, you got to. What should we say? You got to cut a tire down here and there before you can burn some rubber doing a burnout after winning a race. So
turn right to go left.
Exactly. That's life. And if anyone knows that, it's Dinger, road course ace. But yeah, it's good to see him back at victory lane, 39 years old, like you said. And he was thrilled to pick up that race win, and you could hear it on the radio as soon as he crossed the start-finish line. My talking point that I want to just kind of get your thoughts on a little bit coming out of this race is I'm impressed with Colleague Racing, man. Matt Colleague gets into this, former college football player, does well in business, starts the race team, kind of a slow start for them. They're running well. At the Xfinity level now, they got 3 full-time drivers. Justin Haley and Jeb Burton both ran exceptional at Las Vegas as well. I believe Haley had an issue at one point toward the middle of the race, and if not for that, he could have been challenging for the win. I think his car was that good early on. I liked how they had all 3 drivers on a different pit strategy down the stretch of the race. Dinger, of course, in the lead. You're going to keep him on the conventional one. And they had the other 2 run long. So either way, you're putting yourself in a position to potentially come out with a win. If a caution comes out, okay, Dinger's not going to be in the best position, having already pitted with the other guys. You've got Burton and Haley who can come down, get fresh tires on the caution, and that's going to be a win for them. So there's smart strategy there. Cup Series, bit of an experiment still. I want to say they got a few guys running. What is it, 1 or 2 cars for Colleague this year? But
I think it's just AJ doing the road courses. They might be doing. I think they are doing Dega and Daytona with Gralla.
I'll look that up here just to be sure. Well, I kind of get your thoughts on this too, but they're building something, and I think this is a team. I can see something coming here at the Cup level. Give them a few years. Obviously, you've got the new car coming up there as well. This being the last year of the Gen 6. So I don't know. Am I overreacting to a strong team performance from Las Vegas, or do you kind of echo those thoughts? And do you think we'll see it at the Cup level here sooner than later for this team?
Not at all. I think you're right when it comes to Colleague being powerful. I noticed it last year. I mean, AJ won at Atlanta. You had all 3 of them last year running 1, 2, 3 at Daytona, and people are starting to make the comparisons that Colleague Xfinity might be the DEI of not like the 2000s, early 2000s, really, DEI of now, and how they're leading the races at plate tracks. As far as the Cup Series, I still want to see more get them into more races and start to build up their presence there before I want to see them go full time, because I'd rather, if they're going to go full time, I want to be as strong as they are at Xfinity. I understand if they don't want to wait because it's more money and more revenue for them. But right now, just keep it part time. Don't waste your money. Well, it'd be making money in the end, but it'd be great to see Colleague up in Cup and running with the big boys.
I agree with you 100%, and I think it will happen. I don't know exactly when it will happen. Obviously, like you, none of us do, but they look good at the Xfinity level, team unit, and I like what I see out of this team. Now, I'm just looking. I think you are right. So they're only doing the restrictor plates, tapered engine spacer tracks, and then
So
the
they're
road
not doing
courses.
road courses. Oh, they're doing road courses. Okay.
No, yeah, Dinger is running the road courses for him. He was on the Daytona road course. Justin Haley's been running a few Cup races for Spire Motorsports, driving the 77 the past few weeks, but that is not Colleague. So I knew he had been in the Cup races, so I just wanted to make sure it wasn't with them. But you are right. So team to watch there for sure. And they're a team to watch now in the Xfinity Series for sure. They are good, and I don't think Dinger is going to be the only Colleague driver qualifying for the Xfinity playoffs this year. That is for sure.
No, they're bad fast, and you'll see all three of them in there again.
You think all three of them can win a race this year?
Two of them can. Jeb Burton is the question, though. I don't, because before I've said Jeb Burton will probably never win a NASCAR race, but
I didn't know that.
I don't know. I don't think he can still, because Chastain didn't win a race. I don't think Jeb will win a race either. So
time will tell, but they looked good this weekend. That is for sure. Just jumping into some other news and notes here as we transition from Las Vegas to Phoenix. We're staying out west. We're staying in the desert. We're just going a state down to the south this weekend. And we lose the Truck Series. They're not going to be running at Phoenix Raceway, but Xfinity and Cup both once again will be on the track. We talked about the struggles of Stewart Haas Racing earlier in the show. We also mentioned, I want to say one of us mentioned just briefly that Cole Custer will be without his regular crew chief. Mike Shiplett has been fined $20,000 and suspended for this weekend's race. 2 loose lug nuts found on the post-race inspection of Custer's number 41 car. Engineer Davin Restivo, I apologize if I don't have that pronunciation quite right. He's going to be on the pit box in Shiplett's absence. Zach's laughing at me. I definitely butchered the pronunciation.
I don't even know, so I just I just apologize to you as if he's listening.
Hey, you never know. Maybe he listens a few years down the road. He's like, this guy right here. I don't want to ruin my name in the sport of NASCAR because you never know. Zach, is this a big deal, little deal, no deal for the 41? I'm inclined to say it's definitely a deal given the struggles that we already documented of SHR overall, 41 team included. Not having the regular crew chief this week, it just kind of seems like another week where they're more likely to struggle than not. Am I right?
I mean, I don't think so, in all honesty. I think they'll be just the same. Because if you figure he's still in the garage getting the setup ready for Sunday, he'll still be able to text the engineer Restivo come Sunday when he's on the box. So I mean, it's a big nothing. It's not really in today's day and age. It's a big nothing doing almost.
That's fair. I'm kind of going to take different approaches here. I don't know. For me, in any sport where a team is struggling, I want that team to be together to kind of get out of it. And I'm not going to, watch Custer go out and he'll have a top 5 finish or something this week. And I'll look like an idiot next week on the show, but I don't know. I'd rather see everyone there. I feel like to get a well-oiled machine and get the gears, really turning, this just it's a nuisance in trying to accomplish that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that, but I mean, it's just he can. The way I see it, he can text what he wants from the pit box, and so he'll be listening on the radio just like everyone else. So it's nothing too big. I feel like.
Fair enough. A couple other bits of news to come out of this week. A couple of Cup drivers picking up some races in the lower level national series here. Kevin Harvick is the big name. He's going to run the Bristol Dirt Race in the Camping World Truck Series. So Harvick will be out on the dirt prior to the Cup Series action. And I mean, if there's a race you're going to run on the lower level series, that would be the one I'd want to do, with the Cups not going on dirt before. So this is a whole new thing. He's going to get a feel for the track a couple nights in advance. So smart move there. And he's also picking up 3 Xfinity Series road course races. This one's interesting to me as well, Zach. We talked about Harvick and how we weren't too high on him with the Daytona road course. He exceeded our expectations there. But with more road course races on the schedule this year than ever, makes sense to run a couple of those at the Xfinity Series level, I would say, as well, just to, see him the day before you got to do them in the Cup Series, fine-tune those road racing skills. I like it for Harvick. I like it all around. And plus, it'll be fun to see him in the lower level series as well.
I'm wearing the Harvick hoodie. I'm wearing the Harvick hoodie. So the Harvick fan in me is like, yes, I want to see him in the lower series. I want to see him get better at this. It's going to be fun to watch. The NASCAR journalist in me, I don't want to see him though, because the NASCAR had a rule last year where before the Daytona road course, you could only run one series. That way, no one had the advantage of going out there and running extra laps. This kind of will screw it up, because he's going to go out there and have extra opportunities to go out there and race and get the feel for the car when it's not. When I feel like it's not really that fair. I would have, as a fan, I'd rather have him. As a NASCAR fan, I'd rather have him not in the races. The lower tiers getting seat time, but it is what it is, and hopefully he does well.
I am proud of you for playing devil's advocate there, because I wasn't going to do it. I was going to give Harvick props for getting in these races. That's a savvy veteran move on my part. But as a more neutral fan of Harvick, not being a Harvick fanboy over here like Zach is, I completely understand where he's coming from with that as well. So I guess credit where credit is due, and we'll see if it improves his performance in the Cup after these races. What do you got?
What's funny is that after 2018 Darlington, when he got in that wreck with Chastain, he said he was retiring for Xfinity racing, only for this to come back, and he's racing Xfinity again. So I might be a Harvick fan, but I think that's funny. So, I mean, look at him now. Come crawling back.
Just can't stay away. It's because he wants to go toe-to-toe with the Dinger. I'm telling you. Lost Dinger is changing the landscape of the Xfinity Series run full-time with Colleague.
And, hey, Cindric's still there too, so don't count him out for the road courses.
Yeah, Cindric is so fast every week. I think that just goes to show how good Dinger was at Vegas. Now, Cindric, refresh my memory, did he have an issue in this? He had a tire go down, right? And he had but he caught the caution and he stayed on the lead lap. So they were going to be crawling around trying to get to the pits because he couldn't get down to the pits.
Yes.
And then they caught the caution and he flew back up through the field. And still he didn't come anywhere close to catching AJ Allmendinger to challenge for a win down the stretch. So Cindric caught a break, honestly, to finish where he did in that race. But he is fast every week for sure. One other driver we wanted to talk about, that's Ryan Preece. Little news with him running in the Truck Series, running at Nashville and Pocono, and it's in a different manufacturer, is what you had told me, than what he's running at the Cup Series. So curious as to your thoughts on that and whether you think it's good, bad, or doesn't matter.
I think it's weird. Because we all know he drives GTD Doherty in Cup when they drive Chevys. When he goes down to truck, he's going to drive DGR Crosley, and DGR is a Ford team. So this is an interesting move. I don't know how he got clearance for this, or if he needed clearance for this. That also is something else that we probably need to look up. But I mean, I don't have a problem with it as a fan, but I'm sure Chevy will, because they want these guys in their own equipment. But I know Preece probably needs seat time, especially at Nashville, where none of them have ever been. And I'm going to go back and say he probably shouldn't be there getting extra seat time, because for this being their first time there, he doesn't need it. But as far as his other race at Pocono, I'm fine with it, because it's happened all over. It's happened forever, pretty much. So why stop it now?
Can you think of another example of this happening in the past where the driver switched to run manufacturers at the lower level? Because off the top of my head, I don't have one, and I'm sure I'm missing one. It's got to have happened before.
It's happened before, but I can't think of one that a manufacturer that's been not repetitive, but they've consistently been Chevy, consistently been Ford. If you go look at Rick Ware, they've changed from Ford to Chevy and go back and forth every week, so you can't really count them.
Right, yeah.
Nor am I trying to poop on them. I'm not trying to dump on them. That's just they do go back and forth every week. It happens, okay?
Do you have the guy's name on TikTok that you sent me?
No, but I can go back and look.
You don't have it on your head?
No.
If you want to look it up, go for it, because I'm sure some of the listeners would enjoy, if anyone is on TikTok. Not saying Zach and I are on there posting a whole heck of a lot, but we get a kick out of some of the videos and such on there. And there's a guy doing, it's kind of like the Cup Series race recaps with a touch of humor, from the perspective of the drivers and such. And there was a little dump taken on Rick Ware Racing after this weekend's race, I believe it was, at Las Vegas. And I got a kick out of that because, Rick Ware is trying to say, oh, we're not that bad. And I think it was Truex was these lap cars are just killing my chances. And
Davey Seagal is his name. Davey Seagal, Daveysegal. I don't follow him, so this is something I don't think I've seen that video. I just saw the one and sent it to you, so I think you're going off something
because I went back and watched them all, and I thought they were hilarious. So he's good for sure. Check him out if you're on TikTok. But anyways, let's get to Phoenix. That covers our news and notes. Phoenix Raceway preview. The Instacart 500 is the Cup Series race. What is the Xfinity Series race called? It is the Call 811 Before You Dig 200. I love that name.
There's something I think it's presented by some Arizona something. I don't even know. But I was thinking, we don't need to include that. Just
no. I wanted to get it in the show because I like the race name.
Then why do we get the beef? It's what's for dinner in there. God, these are such. They're terribly good. That's why we need to get them in there.
Yeah, the beef for dinner. I can't even say it. Yeah, that one was a good one too. A couple weeks ago, I think that was the road course.
No, that was the oval. That was their first race.
Was it seriously?
Yeah. And they were showing a picture of Cindric on the thing, and he saw the piece of beef in his hand for picture later. No one could figure out why he sold a picture of beef, and then they figured that was the first race. Oh my god. The things that NASCAR does for sponsorships.
It's like such a direct shot at Chick-fil-A though too. Like without being a shot at Chick-fil-A. Get it together here. All right.
Stop messing around.
Yeah. We've got a race to preview. Phoenix Raceway this weekend. Zach's track overview is up on flurrysports.org, where he breaks down kind of the history and some of the statistics of the mile oval in the desert. I've got a little more I can add to the discussion. Zach, any highlights or things you wanted to point out from doing your research about the raceway that you think might be pertinent or just of interest to the listeners heading into this weekend?
So, leaving out the Harvick 9 wins that he has at the track, which are the most in Phoenix Raceway history. Yeah, I thought I'd just put that little nugget in there. I think I always knew that there was a road course. I'm pretty sure that I always knew that, but I didn't know that they stopped using it like after it was 2011. I think I said in the article. I thought that they were still using it today, and come to find out that that's kaput after 2011 with one of the renovations they did. But yeah, I didn't know that. But
I feel like a lot of these tracks just kind of have like a road course attached to them. What was the one we had? Like Las Vegas. It was Las Vegas, right? Where it was originally a road course, and neither of us knew that until we actually dug into it, and you had it in your article and stuff last week.
Yeah, Miami has one too. So so every track so far has had a road course attached to it somehow.
Interesting stuff. A little more about Phoenix Raceway. Of course, it's 1 mile. So it's technically a triangle-shaped track. If you want to really get technical, there are 4 turns. So it's somewhere between an oval and a triangle. And I can't really decide which one I would rather say it is, because there's definitely 4 turns.
I'd say it's more like a D oval, like how, well, not exactly how Las Vegas is, but it still has that D shape to it. So and you'll see like a lot of drivers cut the dog leg off too. So it's not like it really is, but we're muddying the waters.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's see, what else do we have here? 10 degrees of banking, different degrees, I think, at different parts of the track. Zach touched on that more in his article for those who are really looking to get into technicality of the track banking. It's similar, looking at other tracks on the circuit, to Richmond. Could also be comped to New Hampshire as far as driving style, the angles of the corners, and also the setup of the cars that you would be bringing to Phoenix. So Richmond and New Hampshire would be the closest that we would be comparing it to. Zach, let's jump into some DFS, some betting. Maybe we'll flip the order this week. We'll look at some of the odds to win the race here first. Brad Keselowski is your odds-on favorite, 5-1. Chase Elliott plus 550. Of course, he won the fall race here last year to win the NASCAR Cup Series championship. 50 cents back of Keselowski this week in terms of the odds. Denny Hamlin plus 650. Kevin Harvick plus 650. Those are your top 4 of those quote-unquote favorites, with Keselowski being the true odds-on favorite. Who do you like?
You can't go wrong with picking Harvick here, but I'm not picking Harvick this week. I like Logano. He's won here in the past. He won here last spring when, unfortunately, it was the last normal race, really. But I feel like he can do it again. And I said this last week where he'd win Vegas, but that didn't happen either. So take my pick with a grain of salt here.
So Logano is 8-1. He's the next driver on the list. Actually, he and Kyle Busch are both 8-1, just outside those top 4. Zach, I appreciate you showing some restraint and leaving Kevin Harvick alone this week. Even though he leads all drivers with 9 wins at Phoenix. And I'll pull up his stats in the spring race specifically. It hasn't always been known as the Instacart 500. But looking at some of these other odds here, you had Logano at 8-1. He's your pick. But we got Busch at 8-1. Kyle Larson, last week's winner, 9-1. Truex, 10-1. Ryan Blaney, 14-1. William Byron at 18-1. All other drivers are 25-1 or longer. Is there another name in that top 10 it would be that you might consider, I guess, as a backup play to Logano, or in the case of maybe a Blaney or a Byron, have a little bigger payout potentially with a race win at those longer odds?
Part of me feels like Kyle Busch is going to break out this week, but I don't want to.
Oh.
It's one of those things like he's either going to win or he's going to finish bottom 20. I feel like he dominated. I shouldn't say dominated, but he was really good at the track when they first changed it to this layout. But then this year, with this year and last year, it's kind of like he hasn't been consistent really, and
not at all.
So that's why I want to say yes to Kyle Busch, but at the same time you have to kind of be hesitant with it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm just not sold on picking him to win a race. I think for those betting on the Instacart 500, if you kind of have that similar lean toward Busch, maybe getting back into form here this week, looking at him for what would the odds be for a top 5, a top 10, looking in who he's matched up against in best finishing position matchups, possibly a group matchup there. Now, in Zach's case, where he likes Logano, he's probably not going to be picking Busch to win a group because he'll probably be grouped with Logano, depending on where you're betting at. But I could see looking at a top 10. Obviously ran well, of course, last week with a solid finish. Kind of came out of nowhere toward the end of that race. So maybe it's a sign of things to come. But, yeah, outside of that, the fall Texas win last year, there's been no consistency up and down for the 18 team.
I'm not saying take it to the blood bank. Maybe just put a little 5 on it just to hedge your bets a little bit,
Yeah, I'm here for it. If there's a track that Stewart Haas is gonna get back on track at, there's too many tracks in that, but maybe it's Phoenix. They lead all teams with 5 wins in the specific spring race. Now, of course, Kevin Harvick has been the man for them in that race, and he has 4 of those wins, 5 career wins in the spring Phoenix race as a driver. One of them came when he was with RCR. Chevrolet leads all manufacturers with 10 wins, but they haven't won at the track since 2017. Ryan Newman would be the most recent Chevy winner. One other thing I kind of thought that was interesting when I was doing different research and stuff for...
Wait a minute, did you say Ryan Newman? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Newman is the last Chevy win? That was back in 2017.
2017. 10, they lead all manufacturers with 10 wins in the spring Phoenix race, but they have not won since 2017.
I forgot you're talking about the spring race, not
yeah.
Just
sorry, this is very specific stuff I'm doing now.
Yeah, you're screwing me up your thanks.
We're a well-oiled machine here tonight.
Folks, we're not professionals. Give us some leeway.
Yeah, but we also aren't canceled, so give us a second chance. We can make some right turns here. We'll be fine.
We make left turns here. We make left turns, not right. Damn it! Now we're canceled.
I didn't say that. One other thing I found interesting researching the race specifically, just curious if you think it's anything worth noting. Logano won last year's spring race, like you had alluded to. Slowest average speed of any winner in the history of the spring Phoenix race. Just over 94 miles an hour. And when I'm talking slowest average speed, it was by a lot. Is that something that might affect how we look at this year's race at all?
Not really. I think
I
it's
want
just
to say
all
everyone else was over 100 though. Like that's the gap I'm talking about.
but that all comes down to how many cautions come out of the race. Because you figure a caution's going to slow them down a lot more than what anything else would, and that's why you're going to have a lap that, okay, I'm guessing that an average lap here is about 113 miles per hour ish, somewhere in that range when they run qualifying speeds and whatnot. You talk about an average caution lap that they're about down to 45. So that's what really brings down the average speed of a race at cautions, because you're not running full speed laps. So
Yeah, I agree. Just something I found interesting. I honestly had to think back to last spring's race to kind of figure out how many cautions there were. It did go to overtime, so worth noting there. But as far as betting picks for me, I'm getting Ryan Newman in there somehow. And I'm not sure if Zach's DFS article is actually up on the site yet. I know I already went through
pending
it and read it, so it'll be out tomorrow. It usually goes up on Fridays, but he talks about how these shorter tracks are kind of like they're well suited for Ryan Newman. And I'll let him go into that more since he wrote the words. But Newman's a guy I'm watching.
He wrote the words.
He's a guy I'm watching this week for betting and DFS. Listed at 100-1 to win the stinking race. We talked on last week's show maybe Roush Fenway Racing looking a little better after a strong showing from both guys at Miami. Weren't necessarily as loud at Vegas as they were at Homestead. But Newman, a top 10. If you're feeling a little frisky, maybe a top 5 even, depending on the odds and how bold you're feeling. But Newman's a guy I'm watching. Of those favorites, I'm going to have to do more digging, honestly. Check the betting preview article when it comes out this weekend over on flurrysports.org for my race winner pick. It's probably not one you want to tail, seeing as I seem to get the week wrong for these guys all the time. Zach, let's talk DFS. I already spoiled Newman. You can follow up on him if you want, and maybe get into another guy you like.
Yeah, I'll continue on Newman because you can't. I said
you wrote the words. You might as well.
Yeah, the first line on the written words in the article. Well, not in the article, but for Ryan Newman, Mr. Harder to pass than a kidney stone. So this it's not wrong. It's the absolute truth, and
that's why it's funny.
I mean, this is why I honestly used to not like Ryan Newman, because he would be 3 laps down and have no chance of getting back on the lead lap, and here he is racing you as hard as he can. Like, dude, just pull over. Your day's done pretty much. Just give way. But so here though is a track that it works for him. You're talking. This track is hard to pass it to begin with. There's not a lot of passing opportunities at this track. So why not have a guy who's probably the hardest to pass in the whole sport? So we're gonna tail Ryan Newman with his cheap $5,500 salary, and then honestly, I'll go with another somewhat cheap guy because I'll stay away from the 2 obvious picks. I'm going to go Almirola. I feel like Almirola is going to get back on the horse this week.
All right.
With how good he's going to tell Harvick, I feel like I think they're going to share a good setup, and Almirola is going to get back on the horse.
There it is. We're calling a Stewart Haas rebound with both guys. I would say Harvick's, if you're using a cheap option like Newman, Harvick's probably a guy you'd want to consider getting in your DFS lineup as well. For those keeping score on the betting side, Almirola 50-1 to win the race. Zach, would you fire on a top 10 for the 10 car this week if it seems right, the price is right? I'm assuming it's going to be plus odds, which is something you wouldn't have had on Almirola top 10 last summer when he was running so well.
Yeah, I think his average finish here is 11.9, and that includes with him in the 43. So I would absolutely take the whatever his top 10 odds are, as long as they're plus. I need the advantage here, baby. Come on, none of this minus bullcrap.
Love it. You're better at heart, and you didn't even know it until you met me. I don't think.
Oh, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Good God.
Driver to avoid for DFS. Who are we not high on this week as Zach loses his mind?
I'll give
He's
you two.
The Cobra.
I hate don't call it that. I hate that. I hate when people call it the Cobra. It's even so stupid. Yeah, I hate you so much.
ESPN did like a whole 2-minute feature.
Yeah, I know. Stop. For the love of God, stop.
Goes off the rails.
We're getting canceled. It's only episode 4. Oh my God. So
beefs for dinner tonight, by the way.
Such an idiot. Can we finish this, please? Oh my God, we can.
Yeah, I asked the question. Who do you not like for DFS this week at Phoenix Raceway, Zach?
I am trying. Okay. Yeah. So here's a guy I've been high on all year so far. It's coming to an end this week. Tyler Reddick. I just don't. He ran well here at the start of the last spring race. Fell apart when he wrecked and didn't do any better in the fall race here. So I'm going to just steer clear of Reddick. I don't have faith in him. And then I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit here with Bubba Wallace. I feel like he's got to get something going before you take 23-11. I honestly thought he'd do better than what he has previously because he's got Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin on board with him. I feel like they'd give him the best equipment available. The only thing, though, is with that, it's a startup team, so you have to give them a little leeway with this. And I don't think anyone really did think about that when the season started.
Yeah, I agree. There's going to be growing pains. I think we talked about that a little bit before the year started, but I think also at the same time, like you said, both of us had higher expectations than what the 23-11 team has delivered here in the first few races. Betting prices: Wallace 100-1, Reddick is 66-1. Definitely not drawing kind of the sharp action, at least not yet, that we've seen here in the past few races. Phoenix a little bit different than the last couple of weeks. But kind of a disappointment, honestly, for me last week at Vegas. I was hoping for a little something better out of him after such a strong run at Homestead. And, of course, Zach was because it's his boy. But go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know what it was last week. He just could. The long run really screwed him, and they just couldn't fix. He ended up being let down, and he couldn't come back from it. So, yeah.
Hey, we'll see if he can rebound and surprise us this week and kind of flip the script. We were hoping for better last week, and now our expectations are down. Maybe he'll come through, but I think we're both in agreement on Newman for sure. Zach likes Almirola. A couple of cheap DFS plays there. FlurrySports.org. We got our own little NASCAR tab up at the top of the site now. Just click on that, and you'll find stacked on top of one another in order of when they come out. So Zach's DFS will be up tomorrow. My betting will be up tomorrow night, or sometimes it goes out Saturdays. All depends on when the back end people get those cranked out. But
yeah, you were all excited about that tab. He texted me as soon as it happened with all caps. We got our own tab or something like that. Which
why wouldn't I be, man?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's exciting, but man, it
says NASCAR on top of the site now. Before you had to click on more and it would drop down and you have to find NASCAR like with tennis. And what I'm trying to figure out is what did we replace? And I can't remember what would have been there before. So I want to know what got bumped too.
Yeah,
but
you're gonna ask future guest Zach Brunner about that.
Yeah, we got to get Zach on here soon.
And in all honesty, yeah, I think for the two of us, we should be excited. We really have built something here, not to toot our own horns, but we're the ones building up the NASCAR page for us in NASCAR tab and whatever you want to call it. Where there's no one else besides us two right now.
Yeah, it's fun for sure, and I'm excited about it. it's a highlight of, I think, my just careers writing sports, if we want to call it a career at this point. I don't know.
Short career for us.
Hey, we're just getting started. But, I was talking to Zach the other day, doing an interview, and he asked me, is there a career highlight? And I was like, just organizing the motorsports stuff and building this up. It's right up there. So it's been a lot of fun, and we're only not even 5 weeks in, and this is just year one. So we have season one on the each week the episode rundown for a reason. Burnt Rubber Racing. We got to get out of here. Burnt Rubber Racing. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Follow on Spotify. You can also listen on Spreaker. Been putting it out in article form each week on flurrysports.org. So when you go check out Zach's DFS and my betting, give it a listen right on there as well if you so desire. We didn't hit on Monkey Knife Fight tonight, but that's okay. We'll do our duo article with some picks on there if we can come up with any.
I change it after we do our show anyway, so it's not like it would have helped anyway.
Yeah, Zach and I, so last week we found out that not only do they change the lines on over-under fantasy points for drivers, which that makes sense, like Sportsbook, the odds move. You would expect the lines to move a little bit. DFS pricing will fluctuate with different things. They change the drivers that are in contests. So a pick that Zach and I might have given out on a Thursday episode of the podcast, it might not even be there if somebody's listening to the show Saturday night, Sunday morning before the race, and they go to make their Monkey Knife Fight picks. There were a couple of plays we had last week where it was completely a new driver was in. So maybe it's just as well that we're going to be a little more timely with those, but that article will be out Saturday for those playing on MKF. I think that's all we got, Zach. Anything else as we head into Phoenix this week?
Yeah, he's Henry at Hangtime Sports. I'm ZT McAdoo. Don't forget to follow the show at Burnt Rub Racing on Twitter. We'll hopefully be back. Hopefully we aren't canceled after all the stupid jokes and stuff we said tonight. That's good. That's enough for me. I think I'll let you close it out.
Hey, beef. It's what's for dinner, folks. Have a good night.